Welcome to My Financial Coach Live.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome back to My Financial Coach Live. Today, I have Michael from Founders with us, and he's actually going to help us with a topic that a lot of our clients have, especially those with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, or growing businesses, whether it's in medical sector or medical related sectors. There's this idea of, hey, this is my life's work. I don't want to step away from it, but if I were to, how would I even begin that conversation? So Michael, why don't you introduce yourself, your company, and then I'd love to just ask you a few questions about that process.
Yeah, perfect. It's great to be here with you today, Impo. As Impo said, I'm Michael White. I work with Founders Advisors. We are based in Birmingham, Alabama, with an office in Dallas and one is in Nashville as well. We provide investment banking advisory services to owners and operators who are looking to potentially monetize all or a portion of their business in a sell-side process. This is something that I have effectively done my entire career across multiple sectors within healthcare. But here at the firm, we also have groups that focus on industrials, on consumer, on technology, on business services. And we all specialize in each of these different verticals because while the process is generally very similar, there are a number of unique characteristics associated with each of those verticals where you will want an expert to help guide you along that pathway. And that's really where we come in.
So I think that's a good starting point. Michael, just thinking in general about businesses, usually our clients are sellers. And so could you tell us a little bit more about the types of buyers that are out in the marketplace, what they're looking for? Is it even worth someone's time if they're not reaching a certain amount of revenue? What does that look like?
Yeah, certainly. Generally speaking, buyers are put into one or two buckets. You have strategic buyers, which are buyers that are larger companies within your particular sector, whether it's a physician practice, whether it's a healthcare technology company, or another provider of healthcare related services in the industry that I serve. That's what we talk about when we say strategic buyers. It's a larger company. There are also a group of buyers which we refer to as private equity investors or private equity buyers. Private equity is a term that generally refers to capital that has been raised by a group from institutional investors like in universities, endowments, retirement funds, and they will take that capital and invest it on the behalf of that private investor into these opportunities to provide a non-publicly traded investment opportunity and a different investment vehicle for those investors. Those are the two largest classes of investors. They sometimes cross over, where a private equity group will invest in a large physician practice and then begin to use that initial investment to help potentially build out a platform or a larger group of affiliated practices where they can do things like share marketing expense across 10 practices rather than one practice, where they could potentially pull into a back office some of the financial reporting and responsibilities that, look, oftentimes a physician has to wear that hat as well as the patient hat, as what a patient care hat. That's one of the larger appeals of partnering with private equity is they can, particularly for physicians, take some of the things that physicians do not want or like to do and allow physicians to concentrate on practicing at the top of their license. When we start to think about valuation and size and is it worth it or not, that's really where we come in because we do this on a day in and day out basis. We know which groups among strategic investors or private equity investors are interested in different sectors of the market and how they think about the valuation. What I would say is there is probably not a minimum size threshold where a private equity or strategic investor would be interested. You would be surprised. Oftentimes, there are very large, multi-billion-dollar valued strategic, publicly traded strategic companies that will buy a smaller practice or a smaller business because that business has something unique to offer, and that larger acquiring entity feels that it's valuable enough for them to spend the time to do it.
All right, so Michael, I think that's a very unique take on what is going on in the private equity world, where, hey, you don't know if you don't ask if there is a market for it. So generally speaking, because there is potentially an opportunity to offer your practice up, depending on what area you're in, how your business works. What types of businesses are you finding a lot of interest in right now? By the way, the date for all our listeners is July 10th, 2024, but where's a lot of interest?
Look, there's a lot of interest in all specialty physician practices across whatever area you're serving right now. This is an area that has been an interest by private equity and some of the private equity-backed strategics going on now for, call it 10 years. It started initially in, I would say, ophthalmology, veterinary medicine, and dermatology were some of the first sectors to become particularly interesting to private equity. But it's since expanded to dental, to cardiovascular, to some oncology care, to primary care. And a lot of this goes back to something I said earlier, is that the business of medicine is hard, and physicians are constantly being challenged by doing things that they really didn't go to medical school to do in order to be able to run a profitable practice. That's where private equity has found that they have an opportunity to make an impact. But not just within specialty physician practices, alternate sites of care, such as skilled nursing, assisted living, long-term care, and rehab, whether it be occupational therapy or physical therapy, those are areas of interest. Behavioral health, that's a very big area of interest, not just on the addiction side, but on the behavioral health, whether it relates to autism or helping children with behavioral problems or other disorders. That's an area of interest today. Some of the sectors that we cover particularly closely are healthcare IT related, so technology into a physician office or an alternate site of care. So things like practice management systems or electronic health records. That's an area of interest from physicians, particularly or for private equity and other investors as it relates to healthcare. And then I would say where life sciences and services intersect is an additional area of heightened interest right now. And that's being driven by the need to help pull costs out of the healthcare system. And so things like contract manufacturing or contract research or services into larger organizations that may not be built to do that as a cost-effective level, as a more nimble provider of those services. That's a third area of heightened interest from investors currently today.
So, Michael, let's say, I mean, it's a very emotional decision whenever you sell your life's work. I can only imagine. And so a lot of the times people get through okay, I think mentally I'm ready to let go. And then they expect a buyer to just show up with duffel bags of cash. Probably doesn't happen that way. So as someone is considering maybe potentially as one of the many options selling their life's work, how long does it usually take? I mean, what are you seeing in the marketplace?
Well, look, the best advice I can offer as it relates to this is to start early. The last thing you want to do is be ready to retire tomorrow and wait until 4:59 p.m. on the day before you want to retire, or the day you want to try and find a buyer to start looking for them. And that's one of the things that, look, we like to take a relational approach to what is at its ultimate end, a transactional business, because we're trying to help you or a client find that buyer. But what that really means in practice is we really like to get to know owners, entrepreneurs, physicians, business people along the pathway, sit and act as a resource to them along the way, so that when they are ultimately ready, when the time comes for them to say, okay, I'm ready to start the process, number one, they're better positioned for it because they know some of what is going to be coming. And we as an advisor are better positioned because we know the client and we've been helping them get things market ready for a couple of years sometimes. We have a number of clients that we've been working with for multiple years before we've actually made that decision to go to market. Now, once you make the decision that you're ready to find a buyer, that's a process that probably takes from 6 to 9 months on average. It can happen quicker. It can take a little bit longer, but it's like you say, it's not something that happens overnight. And it takes a lot of market building and navigating in order to make sure that you are getting the highest and best offer for your life's work. It's, like you said, a very emotional decision, and one where you have, I'm not going to say you only have one chance at it, but it's something that you want to be prepared for so you can make the most of this chance and have the highest probability of success when you do decide to move forward with that.
So potentially we're looking at, call it a few months to over a year. So plenty of time to really think through those options. And my guess is that anytime in between, I mean, it's your business. You say no, you're not locked in or forced. Is that correct?
Okay.
Just to, okay.
That's right.
Okay.
You're not locked in. What we like to do is make sure we start with the end in mind, know where we're headed, explain to everyone what each of the different steps of the process look like, what level of feedback we'll be getting from the market at each of these interim checkpoints. But you're right, no one is locked in. It's your ultimate decision as the owner to move forward or not at the end of the day.
All right. So for all our listeners, chances are you're working with My Financial Coach already. But if not, we do encourage you, especially if you're a business owner, as part of your exit strategy, whatever that may look like, to consider this as one of the options. And if anyone has any questions about if it makes sense for an exit strategy to be part of your overall retirement picture, make sure to connect with My Financial Coach at www.myfinancialcoach.com, schedule a call, and we'll go through a full comprehensive financial plan. And then from there, we'll help you explore if an exit strategy is part of that wealth building strategy. Michael, thank you so much for hopping on the line, and we hope to have you back on shortly or in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, Info. Have a great afternoon.
Absolutely.